In this first tutorial on Python, we will, as they say, start at the beginning. Firstly, you might be interested to know that the Python programming language was not named after the reptile bearing the same name, but after the classic BBC comedy series Monty Python's Flying Circus. Knowing this has made me feel a lot more comfortable, and apparently, if you look at the notes in Python code, there are lots of Python in-jokes, quotes and references. Indeed, we are encouraged to continue this tradition and to add our own Python references and our own code. So clearly, the original programmers and compilers of Python had and continue to have a sense of humour. This is a good sign. This is going to help dispel the nerd persona that programming can have. So, if like me, you'll be feeling like Mr. Gumby here over the coming weeks, don't worry, you'll be in good company. And as I said in the introduction video, I'm going to assume that you've got the Python program installed and idle installed too. I encourage you not just to work in the Python shell as you learn, but create new programs for each example that you work on and save them as you go. Doing this will allow you to create a library of .py files that you can then reference later on, or use blocks of code to build longer sequences by copying and pasting with all that tedious writing. In addition, I have found it useful so far to screen capture and annotate using tools like Jing or Skitch or the window snipping tool, etc., to highlight where I've made a mistake in some code. When code does not work, they are real "my brain hurts" moments, and is why working collaboratively is a good idea. Doing this alone can be a struggle, so let's create a community of help around the comments on this page. Just to reiterate, if the setup of Python on your computer does not make any sense to you, please let me know and I will create a how to install Python tutorial. Just let me know in the comments below. Right, time to get to work onto the ubiquitous Hello World program that all programmers get newbies to make. It is your first introduction to the syntax of the code. For this exercise, it is best to just do it in the Python shell. It is not a program you'll want to keep. So how is this working? The word print is an inbuilt program within Python. In other words, Python knows what this means without you having to do anything. More on these later as I learn more about them. What the print does is it looks at the content of the brackets and prints the contents of that bracket on the next line down in the shell. It executes or does your program, then stops. Note that the content of the brackets is in double quotes, and this is called a string. This function has little or no use, but if we now create a single variable, we can start to see how Python handles data. In this example here, you can see that I've created a variable called name on the left-hand side of the equal sign. The program input is on the right. In the brackets is the string asking my name. When the program first runs, I will be asked to input my name. Python will then remember or store that variable string and then place it in the print function below, where the variable name sits in the string in the brackets. Note how the variable is separated from the string by a comma. Syntax is key in programming, and I have already learned in my short exposure to Python that many of my own "my brain hurts" moments have been due to tiny syntax errors. More of these later. From a layout point of view, also notice how my question is answered in the print function. There is no space between the question mark and the answer. This is because I did not put a space between the question mark and the closing double quotes in the initial input string. Attention to detail like this is key. In the updated example, the difference is clear. All that was needed was one tap of the spacebar. One missing keystroke made the output aesthetically and grammatically incorrect, but the program ran. If I'd omitted a comma after the string in print and before the declared variable, the program would have stopped. Do not underestimate the power of a single keystroke. So now let's take our newfound knowledge of variables and strings and start to see if we can see how we could use this information in a practical sense. Collecting information about people would be a good place to start. So I created the following code. Let's take a look at it. First, you will note that the first line starts with a hashtag or a pound sign, depending where in the world you are watching this. Python ignores any lines that start with a hashtag. This means that we can put notes into our code to remind us what we are doing, and also sprinkle liberal amounts of Python quotes and at the same time not mess up our program. So you will also note that I've introduced the \n into the strings. This tells Python to start the next command on a new line. Finally, you can see that the print function is made up of a series of strings and variables that have been called from Python's memory in an order that does not reflect the order they were initially collected. The variables will be remembered and stored for as long as the program runs. Although this program is running in the shell, I think that you can see how those forms we fill out online are structured, and in future lessons we will look at creating windows that look like the interface we would expect to see in a computer with the input fields we are used to seeing.